Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a report that's going to come out later today, maybe already has by the time you hear this, by the Pentagon's acting inspector general, concluding that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's use of a private messaging app, Signal, recall this, to discuss upcoming airstrikes by U.S. forces into Yemen risked endangering American troops. Everyone recalls the episode. He in real time is being totally cowboy Hegseth fine form, basically talking tough about what was going on, but using a Signal app as he apparently does or did regularly. Maybe he's learned his lesson now. And at the time, that's completely contrary to protocol. And it was a real sort of mini scandal. It looks like small potatoes now against the war crime people are trying to get to the bottom of, including Hegseth's role in the murder of two innocent survivors of a U.S. strike, and whether he gave the general command. But recall, this guy has been from before the start an unbelievably sort of controversial and tarnished figure. Other places that he worked at, there were issues of alcoholism and neglect and a long list of things that came up in the confirmation hearings that's led most recently Senator Kelly to say he is by far, this is Hegseth, the least qualified defense secretary in our history. So none of this is out of the blue. But the finding is strong that the guy endangered American troops, the callous cowboy who really, he got into the sort of mid ranks of the military, actually did these signal communications that endangered American troops. Now, the finding will also include a general determination that Hegseth acted within his official powers. And we don't have the report yet, but the idea here seems to be that he could have, I don't know that they're going to say he did, but that he could have declassified the information that he was revealing unlawfully over Signal. That seems pretty far-fetched to me as a actual conclusion that he was with acting at the time that he was doing it within his powers. And now we have to take the second point, which is the completely hollowed out system of inspectors general under Trump. He's fired them all. They were a robust system of checks within individual agencies that had credibility and really looked into things seriously. Here we have an acting inspector general. We won't know till the report comes out, or maybe even until it's scrutinized on Capitol Hill, but is this dual finding? Yes, he endangers American troops, but he's acting within his powers, which I think you're going to see Hegseth and press secretaries at the White House lead with. Is that a kind of going soft on him by a system? Acting inspector general, by the way, means you don't have congressional confirmation. It makes your job all the more vulnerable and fragile. And remember, he basically fired them all with, it's one of the things that, the dozens and dozens of moves that with a normal administration would itself be a huge scandal. The whole oversight system from within the agency. So what will this tell us about whether it's got any kind of muscle and credibility at all in terms of this other finding? But the headline certainly should be, even if it's like a straightforward finding that he had the power or exercised the power. Okay, everything I'm talking about here is declassified. Okay, let's keep talking. I mean, even if that's what occurred, the headline's got to be "The guy endangered American troops." The defense secretary endangered American troops so he could use his own signal chat rather than the certified and appropriate, really private channels. When you think back to the whole MAGA crowd and the being on the warpath against Hillary Clinton, et cetera, and you're talking about the literal endangering of American troops, it really drives home what not just the hypocrisy, but the greater gravity. He endangered American troops. Okay. So we got a bigger report coming out, and we'll see what it amounts to and what, if anything, it says about the, is it partial kind of extant inspector general system, or is it really complete paper tiger, or not even tiger, just a total, cowed system where once there had been people who really had every confidence that they could make independent findings and they would be taken seriously. For example, Glenn Fine, the Inspector General at the Department of Justice and then at DOD, has written a whole book on this, but just in the era before Trump, Inspector General investigations were something serious. Now they're just one more political process. Another important point, Hegseth refused to participate in the Inspector General investigation, right? So that may indicate that, there's actually some credibility to it, or who knows, but it speaks volumes that the guy at the center of this wouldn't even give his version. It speaks volumes about his contempt for accountability, about his contempt for having endangered American troops, right? What he could have said here and what would have happened in other parts of the government previously would be, holy shit, I can't believe I did that. I didn't understand before. I will never do it again. Thank you very much, Inspector General, for these findings. That's what you used to see, by the way. Bob Mueller up there with Glenn Fine actually saying, we appreciate this and we are getting our own house in order and the like. Instead, you have Hegseth not even cooperating, and I think you will see very dismissive of the negative parts of the report, which means very dismissive of the finding that he endangered American troops. What could be sort of more ghastly for a defense secretary? And, he could fall on his sword and say, I was negligent. Remember what he said most recently in the controversy over the extrajudicial killings. I'm so busy and I was going from meeting to meeting and I didn't really, the fog of war is the term he used. He could do something parallel that would just demonstrate the seriousness that of a finding that he endangered American troops. What could be worse for a defense secretary? Instead, you're going to see, cowboy conduct, defensiveness, high-handedness, maybe even insulting of the Inspector General, acting Inspector General, and the like. And just one more kind of indication of the total stonewalling of accountability from the administration generally, but certainly Hegseth, who has this sort of arrogance and contempt for the process that, we're now talking about endangering his own troops, and that if he maintains, and I think he will, that same approach and countenance, it's really ought to, among other things, be blood-chilling for service members who know that the defense secretary put some of their own in danger and doesn't seem to give a shit about it. And that's my prediction of what it will seem like when the report comes out later today. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.